What's up everybody, I'm Jesse Showalter and welcome back to the series all about designing and coding a responsive landing page from start to finish. Knowing how to code some basic JavaScript is a must if you want to be a front-end developer, but something else that's a must that you'll run into all the time is implementing already established code that other people have written. So today we're going to be implementing a really awesome JavaScript plugin called Scroll Reveal that's going to allow for some of that awesome animation as you scroll down the page. It doesn't require any other dependencies and it's like 3 kilobytes once it's all zipped and done and in your project. So why spend the hours and hours and days trying to figure this out on your own when you can just use this awesome thing that this guy made? Okay, let's dive right in and get started. You can see our project is exactly where we left it last time. I have my text editor on the left and I have my browser open on the right. If I was looking for something that would help me kind of like scroll and reveal and animate things, I'd do a search on a web and I might find something like this. There's a few topics I'm going to be covering in this tutorial. Topic number 1 is how to identify a quality plugin or quality open source code, and how to identify what that looks like, and so you're not downloading garbage. I'll just say that. Number 2 is how to actually download it and get it into your project. And number 3 is really the skill of how to read documentation. I found a plugin and I'm wondering if this is good code for me to use. A good indicator of good code is a link to the GitHub Repo. So it has it right there. And it's also telling me that a lot of people have starred this individual repo. So I'm gonna go click on the GitHub Repo. And you can see, sure enough, there's like over 15,000 stars on this repo. Lots of people watching it. Lots of people have forked it. There's a few people who have contributed to it, and there's lots of releases. That's number 1. This is a well-trafficked piece of code that I'm about to implement into my site, okay? Number 2, I could go look at the issues in the GitHub repo. And if I see a lot of issues just like these, there's 12 open, but there's 380 that are closed. That means 380 issues that have been resolved. That means that this thing's being actively developed, okay? We can also look at the dates of things and see that it's just 4 days ago, somebody has kind of like posted an issue with it. And then a day ago, somebody has actually resolved and closed an issue. This thing is actively being developed, and that's a really good sign. And then lastly, this is just a personal preference, how is the README file or the documentation that's right there in GitHub? Is it well put together? Does it look like it makes sense? Is it from the outset, does it seem like it's gonna be easy for you to decipher? This stuff looks pretty good, this documentation. So this for me seems like it's gonna be some good solid code that I could try to implement into my site. The next thing to do is look at how we get this thing into our project. Right off the bat in that really solid documentation, there's a few ways to install this into my project. Number 1, I can just call for the online file that's there and just pop that right in. You can totally do that. Or you can also download, and it gives you multiple ways. You can either download the zip file by simply clicking here. You can use npm, which we've already kind of used when we set up our whole gulp file and everything. Or you can use Bower, which is a package manager for front-end development, to install it. Any of those ways is fine. I'm not gonna go into each and every one. Basically what I've done is downloaded the zip, just like this. I've opened up the zip file, and inside you can see that I have in the distribution, I have a minified version that's about 9 kilobytes. And I can take that, and as I've already done, I've dragged it into my project and put it in my vendors file. And then I've linked it in my index.html, and that's how I installed it. But there are multiple ways to install it and start using it. And that's part 2. Part 3 is to actually read the documentation and learn how to implement it. So that's what we're gonna do right here, right now. We're gonna come into our app.js. We're gonna click over really quickly and figure out what's the first thing we actually wanna animate. Well, I'm imagining that when the page loads, this big phone right here is actually going to animate. So I'm gonna go up and just make sure I have that in view in my HTML. And that is, there's my main headline, there's my sub headline, and here's my image with the class of phone. Okay, cool. So let's read the documentation and see if it speaks to us and tells us how to actually get this thing started. So it's telling us in the JavaScript that we need to instantiate or initialize a new object that is called scroll reveal, and we want to do that on the window. The reason we want to do it on the window, I'm guessing, is because it's measuring the scroll of what's in the boundaries of the window, and it's then activating and firing off certain things. So okay, we just want to kind of copy along here. We want to say window dot scroll reveal. That's what the SR is for. They've created their own function and methods and everything, and we're just calling to it right now. And so we're going to say scroll reveal, just like that. And then just like a function, we're going to end it with some parentheses and a semicolon. We have now activated or instantiated this plugin in our project, and our JavaScript knows now the functions that are hosted in that library, that minified little library. It's calling to it and searching it for all of the functions and methods and everything that are inside there. Now we can use them inside here. That's a pretty nice thing. It's just like having a reference book on hand. We're saying, hey, this is my book, and it's called Scroll Reveal. There's a lot of knowledge inside here, and if I ever want to use this knowledge, all I have to do is look inside and find it. That's what we're basically doing. And next thing we want to do is we want to call the scroll reveal function, okay? And it's saying we want to type this command reveal, and we want to open up a set of parentheses and close it with a semicolon and some basic kind of single quotes, and we want to call to some sort of DOM element, okay? If you don't know what the DOM is, it stands for Document Object Model, and it's basically a representation of all that HTML that you've written, and the browser is parsing it and turning it into almost like a tree-like document that it can access and remember all those different elements. So the Document Object Model basically just stands for your HTML that you've written and all of the objects that are inside of it. So we're gonna kind of access that document object model, or the DOM, and we're gonna find the thing that we want to actually, affect. So we have inside the header, that's an ID of header. We have an image. Where did our image go? We have an image with a class of phone. So let's just put that inside here. We'll say inside of our header, we have an image with a class of phone. Okay, so now we are kind of like calling it. That's the basic use. So when we kick back over, we see refresh. We get a basic animation right off the bat. It has like a slight delay on it, and it's coming from just like slightly down and animating up, and the opacity is going from off to on. It's doing all that work for us, and all we had to do was write one command. Well, can we customize it at all? I don't know. Let's go look and see. It says configuration. We have some reset stuff. We have some duration stuff. Okay, here's all the starting defaults, and we can always add those as different parameters to this function of our scroll reveal to customize it any way we want. So let's go ahead and customize our animation right now. You can see right here in the documentation, I can just bring this over and we can compare the syntax so we see, all right? We are calling our object right there inside the DOM. We're gonna put a comma there, and then we're gonna open up a set of curly brackets. And now we have created the space to start actually writing all of our animation kind of overrides inside of it, our customizations, right? So let's start writing our key pair values inside here to customize our animation. We can see over in the documentation, the delay is already set at 0, but the duration is set at 500 milliseconds. Maybe we want to speed that up a little bit. We could come over here and write delay, we could come right over here and write duration and put a colon, and then instead of 500, let's try 200. It says after that we just need to put a comma, and let's refresh now and see the 500 milliseconds versus I'm gonna save 200 milliseconds. It's a little snappier, it's a little quicker. I kind of like that. What other kind of customizations do we have? It tells us we can choose the origin. Do we want it to come from the bottom, the left, the top, the right? This is really good documentation. This is why I want you to look for code that has great documentation. So the next thing we can write is the word origin, and let's just make it come from the left really quick to see what that looks like, okay? And after it, I'm pretty sure we'd have to write a comma as well. No? Oh, I see. We need to actually put it inside of single quotes. So you can see it's kind of coming from the left there. It's coming from the left, it's just so fast, and the distance that it's traveling is so slight that maybe we want it to travel a little bit further of a distance. The standard starting default is that it's coming from 20 pixels. It's offsetting at 20 pixels from where it should be. It's animating it in to where it should be, and that distance is only 20 pixels. Maybe we want to increase that distance. So we could put distance, and let's try something really big and ridiculous, like 200 pixels. I think we have to put that again inside single quotes, and let's try saving this time. Well, you can see it's coming from way over on the side, and I don't know, maybe we like that? I don't really like that. So I'm gonna change it to animate in from the bottom and maybe only 100 pixels. Now you can see it's kind of coming up. I think it's still a little quick, so I'll just kind of customize my animation timing. And there it is, 300 milliseconds from the bottom, 100 pixels offset from where it's gonna end up. I like that. I think that works really, really good. So you can see that this code right here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code is all it requires to do some smooth animations to our objects. I'm gonna go ahead and implement a bunch of these animations on a bunch of different elements on the page. Okay, so now let's just stretch out our design, and we can see if it is all the way expanded from the top to the bottom. Since it's in view, it's gonna activate right away. Those cards down there are gonna activate right away, as well as our initial phone. I'll just refresh it again so you can see pow, 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 pow. They're all activating, and as I scroll down, I have one more animation to go. It's happening a little bit quick, so how about we just give it a little bit of a kind of like delay, and we'll come down, and as we scroll down we get our delay. We get the phone and the offer kind of sliding in from the left and the right, and it's because I was able to address each and every element that I wanted to in the DOM here using this basic plugin. Well, that's it. That's how simple it is to implement something like scroll reveal in your project. It's just so nice when there's a solution for the problem you're facing, and that's one of the key skills of a front-end developer, knowing when to go it alone or when to borrow what somebody else has done. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video and the series as a whole. If you've stuck it out and watched every single video in this series, kudos to you. I would love to hear what you think about it down in the comments. And I hope that you guys are designing amazing things, making amazing things, and sticking with the process all the way through. I'll see you in the next one.